Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us Andrea Palten, who is an 18-year executive marketing coach. Welcome to the program, Andrea.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike. And you pronounced my name correctly. So,
well, you know, with my name of Saunders, I get Sanders a lot, so I really try to make sure that people pronounce their names right. So awesome, that's really good. And I love in your bio you talk about I'm an all-around marketing nerd. I used to call myself a marketing fanatic because I am. So tell me a little bit about your background and how much of a nerd you are in marketing.
Yes. So my entire career has been in marketing, and I was a marketing executive at corporate America, huge companies, small companies, and I always was in digital marketing and love it all the way around. And then I started teaching it 4 years ago to small businesses. And I just realized that I love it so much that I was working 9 to 5, and then I was teaching it in the evenings. And so I decided, you know what, I'm such a marketing nerd. I want to spread the word about how awesome you can grow your business with marketing. So I started my own business as a marketing coach just to help people also become a marketing nerd.
Yeah, that's awesome because, you know, I think if you really dialed it in and looked around us, marketing's all around us all the time. And I know that my kids, they're all 15 to 21 now, but growing up, I would always be, pointing things out. And now it's kind of just old news to go, oh, yeah, product placement. But how many times do we see, like in, I don't know, Chicago Fire, they come into the fire station and they've got all the bags and they're getting ready to fix their lunch and the camera zooms in on the bag from Walmart. And it's not like a long drawn out, like way back in the day, Wayne's World, when they were doing their funny product placement thing. It's not corny, but it's just enough to go, oh, Walmart. That's product placement. Marketing is around us all the time.
Oh, it is. It really is. And a lot of the small business owners that I help, they're really nervous about online marketing and digital marketing because now you're looking at new tools, new platforms, new channels. And that's why I decided to really, hone in on helping entrepreneurs that are just starting out or small businesses that are brand new to marketing. They understand it, they've seen it, but they don't know how to do it themselves, especially online.
So let's talk about that a little bit because I think that when people think of the traditional, impression of marketing, it's collateral, right? It's the business cards, it's the trifold flyers, it's your brochure and all of these things that in some sectors work like gangbusters. Great, still does, but for many people, you better either not do that at all, or you better have a heavy weighting on the digital side and just kind of light on the print collateral. Talk a little bit about when you talk to a client that is either resistant or they just don't know what they don't know. How do you introduce the fact that you got to get with the times these days? Maybe you don't need Facebook bots running, but maybe you just need to have a little bit of a digital approach.
Yes, and I love that because I do think that for a lot of businesses, print collateral still works. So I don't really want to take anything away from that because it does work really well. Real estate agents especially and certain local markets, that's super important. And so I concentrate on the digital part because here's what happens, and especially with people that are a little bit on the younger scale. So I'm talking, 45 and under. When you have a business, the first thing people do nowadays, they go online, and they're going to look for you, and they're going to search for you, and they're going to look at your website. They're going to look at your Facebook page if you have one. They're going to look at your LinkedIn and your Instagram. So your business and your brand better show up, and it should show up in a light that you want to actually do business with them. And then don't forget, right, reviews, testimonials. People check you out, and they look under their hood now because it's easy to do that. And so that is what I teach, is where I really just, what does your brand look like? Would you want to do business with you? And how do you get brand loyalists to leave you these awesome video testimonials or these great Yelp and Google reviews.
Yeah, and we could, as you can imagine, we could probably talk for about the next 3.5 hours on that one statement you just made. But and I love it. This is the world I live in too, so I love getting your perspective and other people's perspectives. But what I hear and what I would suspect that you hear from newer small business owners, they're the ones wearing all the hats. They're trying to do it all. Maybe they've got a handful or a couple, 3 employees, but they still feel like they've got to have their hands in the pot. And then they're like, look, I'm barely keeping my head above water doing what we're doing. And here's my marketing plan, but it's really not a full marketing plan. And we're really not following it as much. And you're talking to me about this whole bullet point list, laundry list items of digital marketing I could do. And you're like, ugh. So what do you tell them on, look, I'm just giving you the 30 or 60,000 foot view. Here's some easy things we can do to start. And once you get, kind of like running alongside you with the training wheels off, once you're confident, I'll let go. And then as you get more and more confident, it's going to be easier to add one more thing and one more thing. How do you advise your clients to where to start?
Yeah. So I first let them know of all the possibilities, just so we can start brainstorming together, right? There's email marketing. There's all these different social media sites. You can have a podcast like Mike.
Yeah.
You can do a blog. There's just so many things. So we look at them first, and then we do research. Where does your target audience hang out? Coupled with, what are you good at? Because if your target audience maybe listens to podcasts and watches videos, but you're only good at video, then let's skip the podcast.
Yes.
So we figure out what's your target audience doing, where are they going to want to find you, and then what are you good at. And then we couple that. So we already narrow down now what we're good at, where our target audience hangs out. And then what we do is we figure out how to do content batching and content repurposing. So a lot of people, when they're first starting out, they think they need to write a blog post on subject A and a podcast on subject B and email about subject C. And I teach folks that you don't need to do that. You have one subject, and that one subject you can repurpose into 30 different pieces very easily, and I'll show you how. And that's what I really want to make sure that these solopreneurs or the small businesses, like you said, with 3 people, they don't have time to do everything.
Yeah.
So they need to first learn what's possible, then make sure, hone in what they want to do and what will work well for them, and then how you can get the best bang for your buck and do that content repurposing.
So I agree with that 1,000%. In fact, about 2 or 3 months ago, my 14th article on Forbes came out on that exact topic, where I was touching on and talking about how to do one thing and then put it into multiple, the one topic of X, but now you did this one activity and it's now a blog post, a video, a this, that, or the other. So talk a little bit about what that looks like from your perspective.
Yeah, so, I'll give you an example of what I do. So just like you, I have a podcast, and it's weekly. So that's my main big content piece. So I do that. I write it all up. I do my podcast. And then from there, I take 5 Facebook posts, 5 Instagram posts, 5 LinkedIn posts, 1 LinkedIn article, 1 blog post. So now I've created I think that was about 19 pieces from just one main post. And so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to redo everything. And a lot of times what I've been doing lately, I will actually record my podcast and record a video while I'm doing the podcast. And now I actually have a video on top of that. And I did it all in the same time. And I feel like a lot of people that are starting out in our business, as you know, Mike, they just don't know all the things that are available and how you can do things at the same time.
So how do you take your podcast and let's just insert podcast / audio recording, because some people might not have their own podcast, but they might go, oh, I've got a microphone on my computer. I can at least talk about this topic and I'll post that up on my blog or Facebook. But how do you advise them to take that recording, that audio recording, and then have a long form social media post or a blog post article created from that?
Yeah. So there's tools that you can actually get so you don't have to write out the transcript yourself. And so there's tools where you can actually get the transcript of what you've just said. And then you do have to rewrite it a little bit. And because writing to different formats is important. An Instagram post will look different than a LinkedIn article that you post. So do keep that in mind, but you take the main content piece and just rewrite it, shorten it when needed, and then make it look good. Throw in a couple of images. Put some bullets in there so it's easy to scan. Have really good headlines so people can easily see what each section of the article that you just now wrote is all about. So there's all these little tools that you can do, little tips and tricks. But again, you have the same content that you've already researched, you've already done, and it's just a matter of 10, 15 minutes in repurposing it into better, smaller articles and better looking.
And what I do with that is, I know you mentioned tools, and you've probably got a laundry list of tools that you recommend, and whichever one you use, whether it's Rev or Temi or Trint, there's a bunch of ones out there, but you can easily upload that audio file to one of those, and for 10 cents a minute, now you've got this automated transcription. And to your point, it's not perfectly punctuated and spelled right, but it's pretty darn close to 90% of the way there within like 8 minutes, 10 minutes at the most. And so a 20-minute audio costs you $2 and way easier than sitting down and writing it out. So now you just spoke your thoughts, because I've said for years, there's a disconnect between your head and your hands. And, you might know a bunch of stuff about your business, but if you sit down to write it out or type it out, you just draw blanks. But if you can talk through it, just turn that phone recorder on or the microphone on your computer and get that audio out. Well, now you've got that audio and it can be converted to text, and then you could pull out chunks for social, for articles and things like that. Is that similar to what you teach your clients as well?
Yes, and my favorite tool is the one that you mentioned. One of them is Rev.com. It's just really easy. You just upload it. And then for people that maybe are on a budget and you don't want to spend that much money, YouTube actually has a free transcription tool when you upload a file. So you can actually upload an audio file or a video, and it actually gives a free transcription. It's not as good as Rev. I am going to have to say it's not as good. You have to do a little bit more editing. But, for those that are on a budget. And otherwise, if you're not, like you said, I think it's $1 per audio minute right now on Rev.
Well, Rev is $1 per minute for a full transcription, but their automated bot transcription through AI is 10 cents a minute.
Yeah, it's awesome. That's awesome. I mean,
you're going to get 96% accuracy when it's the full, because that's a human doing the transcription, $1 a minute. But then you're going to probably have 85 to 90 accuracy on the 10 cents a minute. Well, for me, I'll pay $2 for a 20-minute transcription and read through my own words. And they've got a really neat tool. I'm sure you've seen this before, where if you do the automated transcription, you get the link and you go right to there, and it opens up the text, but then next to it on the panel on the right or left hand side is an audio button. So if you get to this one phrase and it's like, that's not right, what was I saying right there, you click on it and hit play, and you'll listen to the audio of what you were saying, and then you can pause it and go, oh yeah, it didn't transcribe it exactly right, but now hearing this one line, I now know, and you go change it, edit it, there it is. And you can do that at probably in my experience, no more than twice per recording, and now you've tweaked it, and it's 10 times less than the human transcription. So again, there's tools to do this, and to your point, free work. So if you want to spend a little extra time, use the YouTube. So what are some other tools that you use to recommend to clients when they're thinking about taking some digital baby steps?
Yeah. So one of the things when you are creating content, a lot of times, especially for service businesses, we need lead magnets. And lead magnets are a PDF that you create. It could be a checklist, a cheat sheet, a swipe file, a white paper, an ebook, a marketing guide. That's what I do. So these pieces are really awesome to have because you're showing your audience A, that you're a thought leader, and also, hey, you have gifts for them. You have freebies for them. So when you create a lead magnet, you put it on your website where people can fill out a form, download it, and now you have their lead, their email address, and they got something awesome and free from you. And so one of the tools there that I always like to use is called Canva. I'm sure you've used Canva or you know of Canva, Mike. It's a super free, awesome tool. Love it. You can create PDFs on there super easily. Yeah. And that's something that I like to use myself. I have the paid version. And what I always tell my students is when you do create PDFs, do smart subject lines or smart titles like the 10 best email subject lines or the 50 best ways to repurpose content. And then when you have something like that, A, it goes really high on Google searches, and B, if you do create something that says the 10 best pot pie recipes, now you have 10 individual Instagram posts, 10 individual Pinterest posts, because you've just been able to break that up. So that's always a really good way to get content in.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. And I think one thing that kind of taking it to the next level ninja stage that I would say, and I know you would agree 100%, but I would say, okay, hey, you love the idea of content and repurposing and some articles and all these things. That's wonderful. But now what do you write about? And I'm sure you could talk for days on that. But one thing that I like to recommend that kind of gets people thinking ooh, yeah, that is a good idea. So most people have heard of the consumer buyer journey, the customer's buyer journey, meaning if you buy anything short of a pack of gum, but a pencil, a computer, a car, a house, traditionally higher ticket purchases like that, you're going to go through some thought processes and what about this? And I wonder about that. And it goes way beyond frequently asked questions. It goes to the level of should ask questions. If you here's the questions you should ask if you really want to understand whatever. And so now you as the business owner are taking this thought leadership, educational aspect to teaching your target audience, but one nugget at a time. So you might come up with 5. Let's just pick the number 5. 5 key points that if your target audience understood these 5 things, man, they would just see you as the obvious choice. And they appreciate that you're not pushy. So you're writing an article or recording a teaching on point number 1. And it's all about that, all the pros and the cons and the misconceptions and what you get if you do it, what you get if you don't, all these things. And now that becomes a wonderful piece of content to get out there in all the places you mentioned, because when someone comes across that, it's ooh, that's a good point. And then, to see the next steps in our series, click here and read the next one. And it's ooh, and you're drawing them through the buyer's journey to lead them to you with good, helpful content, which isn't buy, right? So what are your thoughts on kind of having a strategy underlying the content creation?
Oh, yes, and I love it. And I usually, there's so many different names for it. I call it the buyer's journey, where you really need to map out how do they even find you? What happens in the awareness stage? Then when they come to you, what happens in the interest stage? How do you get them to convert? So there's different content for each stage, because the people that don't know you need to talk about a little bit about your brand, introduce yourself, and how you can solve their problem. And then in the conversion stage, at that point, you got to figure out how your brand or your service or you as the business owner, how you're better than your competitors, which requires different content yet again. Then when they become your customer, right, you don't want to just walk away and say, hey, thanks, and that's it. You want to be able to give them great customer service. You want to delight your customer, and you want to turn them into such raving fans that they tell their friends and network about you. And that whole area needs more content. Again, what you give to them, something that they're going to be like, wow, this Mike guy is the best guy on the planet. I'm going to tell everybody about him and everybody about the podcast. That happens because you gave good service, and that happened because you gave good content. And that's something so important. So I love that you mentioned that journey, that buyer's journey. And one thing I'd like to add, go ahead.
I was just going to say one tag onto what you just said there, which is when you do that and you do it from the position of giving and serving, like Bob Berg's wonderful book, The Go-Giver. If you've not read that, definitely read it. It's amazing. But all of a sudden now people do view you a little differently than your competitor, and your competitor is probably still slinging the old school tactics and being pushy, and it helps you to be seen as that obvious choice so much more easier, because they're like, yuck, that other company was just pushy, and you're like helpful, and you're talking about this product or service compared to that one, and I now understand my options, and it really makes it easy to have your competitive advantage obvious.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, and one thing I wanted to add is a lot of my students, since they're brand new to marketing and they're new to telling their story, I always tell everybody, before you you have a website, before you write something, before you do anything, you need to sit down and really know who your ideal customer avatar is. So that's where I make everybody start. I want you to sit down and really figure that out. What's their demographic? What's their pain point? Why your service helps relieve their pain point. And I use a tool called the empathy map, where we look at what does your ideal customer avatar see every day? What do they hear every day? How do they feel? What are they thinking about? And once you know all this, and you really know it, and you really feel it in your gut, then you can write copy for your website or for your podcast or whatever you do, because now you're speaking to your ideal customer avatar, and again, you're able to talk to their pain points and offer the solutions that they need.
Yeah, and it sounds kind of corny to say, but I when I teach or give presentations, often that same topic comes up. Like, who are you, trying to sell to? And in we're in Colorado, and there's I use an example sometimes for, the Denver area. There's a Ford dealership, and I'm like, okay, guys, if you've been living here in the area, finish this sentence. Mike Naughton is, and they're like, Ford, because he has branded himself as, Mike Naughton is Ford. Well, a car dealer would never say, or should never say, my ideal buyer or customer is anyone that drives a car. No, because Mike Naughton sells Fords. He's not probably going to sell, have a high-end BMW or Mercedes type customers come to his lot, because it's like, I don't need a Ford. I don't need a truck. I don't need a SUV. I need this. So I think that's a really big thing to really put a pin in, because when you can dial in that avatar and that target audience, now you can speak, their language, but you can put marketing in front of them that really makes sense, that attracts them, rather than like, no, I don't want the Mercedes. I want a 4-wheel drive truck.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that you had used that as an example, because you can tell in that example that he has a value proposition. There's a strong statement of what he is and what he's all about. He's not just a car salesman. And that's important too. Who are you? Who are you helping? And know that about yourself. Like some of the names I've been called are from my students are things like, she's a digital marketing beast. It's fun little things like that. Yeah. And that's what I keep hearing. And it's because I teach digital marketing in its whole entirety. And so people are like, okay, she really gets it. And that's something that I want to make sure that I keep making sure that people know that about me, that you come to me just for one thing, you come to me for a ton of things. And that's something that you need to figure out for your business. Who are you and what are you known for? And make sure that that's what you use in your marketing and in your slang. And even if you're at a party introducing yourself.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And you know what? Why don't we wrap up with this? I see on your website that you have a masterclass coming up, and it's only $4,000. No, I'm just kidding. Haha, it's free. So I want you to tell a little bit of a background on what is this masterclass. How can people learn more and take advantage of this free training to learn more about increasing your digital footprint and increase your leads?
Yeah. So the master class, like you said, is free and live. And the reason it's live is because I want you to be able to ask me questions. So we can even talk about things in this master class that don't pertain to that particular class. Ask me anything. And you can just go to my website at Andrea, Palten, Revcom, and you will see it. And we're going to really specifically talk about how you can drive traffic, so get more visitors to your website and to your social media sites, and then how to get those people and turn them into leads and then convert them into sales. And we'll spend about an hour and a half talking about different tactics you can use and some tips and tricks that I've learned in my last almost 20 years of marketing.
That is awesome. So I'll make sure that I have the direct link to this to your website in the show notes. And it's just really a pleasure to get to know you and to chat with you, Andrea. And it's really great to see what you're doing and making a difference in the lives of people that don't want to pay 10 prices. And I'm confident we didn't even talk about pricing, but I'm confident that your prices are so reasonable compared to the big agencies that you see out there. So it's great to be able to make that big difference in the lives of your business owners that you work with.
Yes, and thank you so much, Mike. I've been binge listening to your podcast. I think it's amazing. You get so many good nuggets out of it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneurssradio.com.